Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome back to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we are diving into a stack of source material that details, well, nothing less than a reinvention of modern people management. We're moving way past the usual HR chatter here.
Right. We're getting into the fundamental mechanics of how companies are wiring up their talent structures.
And specifically, we're looking at the alignment. You shared sources detailing how systems like online 360 feedback are being integrated with performance appraisal systems.
Seamlessly integrated and for one single critical objective.
And that mission seems crystal clear: to move entirely beyond these vague competency models. Things like good communication or team player.
Ugh, yes. The goal is to create a direct, measurable link between what an individual does every single day and the business's bottom line, its financial success.
Exactly. The context here is just so important. I mean, we are really seeing the death of the traditional annual, and let's be honest, deeply subjective performance review.
That's the idea. These new systems, the 360 feedback and the structured appraisals, they're designed to be complementary processes. They're not just about collecting data.
They're about providing data-driven insights.
And establishing an unambiguous definition of what success actually looks like in every single role.
It sounds like they are creating a single source of truth for an employee's value. But, okay, we have to start at the beginning here, the perception engine. Let's dig into the structure and output of that online 360 feedback system.
Yeah, and if you want to understand the 360 system, you really have to appreciate its academic backbone.
Okay.
The fundamental methodology, it's based on the classic Repertory Grid method. It's a concept that comes from George Cowley's personal construct theory.
Now, that sounds incredibly academic. I mean, for the business leader who just wants actionable intelligence, why should they care about Kelly and the Repertory Grid?
Because it defines how the data is gathered and, more importantly, why it's so powerful. The whole function of the Repertory Grid is to uncover the specific constructs or, the influences that one employee attributes to others in their network.
So it's not about ticking a box that says good.
No, it's about defining success through the eyes of the people you actually work with.
So instead of some universal checklist, the 360 mechanism is collecting feedback from all these different perspectives: colleagues, managers, leaders.
Multiple perspectives, yes.
But based on criteria that are defined by the company's own operational reality, right?
Precisely. It builds this comprehensive panoramic view of an individual's actual tangible impact on business results and collaboration. This is so critical because it avoids that standard pitfall,
where a manager only judges the output they can see.
Exactly. This captures the often hidden influence an employee has on the entire execution chain.
It's fascinating, given that complex theoretical underpinning, is the radical simplicity of the evaluation mechanism itself. Our sources detail an appraisal system that uses a starkly simple binary appraisal, a yes-no format.
Right.
Why would you strip away the nuance of a 5-point scale? That seems a bit blunt.
That simplicity is the point. The 5-point scale, the 1 to 5, it just invites managers and peers to live in the middle.
Everyone gets a safe 3 to avoid conflict.
The binary format forces a decision. You are either meeting the clearly defined personalized standard or you are not. It completely eliminates subjectivity by demanding clarity.
So the criteria must be razor sharp then.
They have to be, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
The evaluation criteria are highly personalized. They are not generic company competencies like integrity.
Right.
They are tied directly to company values or critical competencies unique to that role, or, and this is the key part, the expected contribution aligned with a specific business impact. So if the criterion is, did this employee successfully mitigate risks in the Q3 product launch? The answer has to be yes or no.
And here's where it gets really interesting for the user, the person looking at their results. That binary data collected from all these sources is instantly processed and transformed into those visually captivating spider diagrams.
Yeah.
That visualization must be incredibly powerful for shifting behavior.
It's the instantaneous data visualization that converts perception into action. The spider diagram reveals the quantitative results of what your peers think. When these perceptions get synthesized into hard data, the diagram immediately shows you specific intervention points.
So if I see a large spike on my diagram in process compliance, but a huge dip in proactive issue resolution, I instantly know where I need to focus.
That's the power of the panoramic view. It highlights what we call the crucial metric, the disconnect.
The disconnect.
It measures the gap between the collective expectations that others hold for you, what they need from you to succeed, and your own self-perception of your impact. And that disconnect, it's not a judgment.
It's a blueprint.
It's the exact blueprint for targeted coaching and development. It tells you where systemic expectations aren't being met by your individual reality.
Okay, so 360 feedback gives us the where and the why of that perception gap. But now we need to link that qualitative insight to the quantitative architecture of the business, which brings us to redefining appraisal.
Exactly. We're moving from those subjective annual reviews to methodologies that are really rooted in business reality.
And the first step is foundational.
It has to be. The primary objective is to establish a mutual understanding of the role between the leader and the team member. The appraisal process begins by ensuring both parties commit to the responsibilities defined by the job.
But not the old job description.
Not the old job description. This is where the core mechanism for success comes in, the core alignment. The sources detail a methodology that aligns job positions, internal communication, everything, with the profit-producing processes unique to that specific business model.
That feels revolutionary. Think about your company as a listener. It makes money through a specific sequence of actions, right? The product cycle, the sales funnel, whatever.
And this methodology maps every daily activity directly to that sequence. You are no longer judged on general competence. You are judged on your performance as a vital step in the process that generates financial results from market demand.
So my role isn't just about closing my tickets in Jira. It's about understanding how my finished ticket accelerates time to market and therefore increases revenue in Q4.
Precisely. It contextualizes the task.
Yeah.
And the way the system tracks this contribution is through a highly sophisticated data structure, a heat map of chains of position-related performances.
Okay, that is some heavy jargon. Can you unpack what a chain of performance actually looks like?
Sure. Imagine your overall business result. Let's say a 20% increase in recurring revenue is the final link in the chain. That outcome depends on a whole chain of successful performances before it. The marketing team generating X leads, the sales team closing Y deals, the implementation team setting up Z clients, and so on. The system maps all those dependencies.
And the heat map visualizes those chains.
Yes. The heat map is generated from the company's high-level KPIs. It shows management in real time exactly where the performance chain is strong and, more importantly, where the bottlenecks are.
The weakest links.
Exactly. If the chain breaks between qualified leads and closed deals, the heat map instantly tells you which positions are responsible for that section of the performance chain.
That kind of actionable data must completely transform operational decision-making. You're not guessing where the problem is. The data is pointing directly to the specific roles that need intervention.
It enables leveling performance across the whole organization and really robust talent development because you have surgical precision. You know that if position A improves its conversion rate by 5%, the entire revenue chain accelerates.
And this intense focus on linking every task to a financial contribution. It must require a huge upgrade to the basic job description. The sources call this a business portfolio.
That's right. The old job description was static, just a list of duties. The new business portfolio is a dynamic, financially weighted document. It links your tasks simultaneously to the structural pillars of the business-like governance or process flow and to your specific, quantifiable personal business contribution.
So instead of a generic marketing manager job description, the portfolio would detail something like, this position's function is to maintain a 90% lead qualification rate, which directly supports the revenue generation chain, contributing X amount to the quarterly pipeline.
It makes the financial purpose of the job impossible to ignore. For you, the listener, think of it less like a basic resume and more like an itemized financial statement for your own role.
It clarifies your return on investment to the company.
Exactly. It just forces this radical clarity across the whole organization. Everyone understands not just what they do, but why they do it in terms of financial outcome.
Okay, so we've got the feedback system defining the perception gap and the appraisal system defining the structural alignment with this business portfolio. But how is this continuous, highly detailed process actually managed day to day? And what's the ultimate criterion for success?
Well, the continuous nature requires structured interaction. Management relies on these cascaded platforms of communication, but critically, they rely heavily on regular face-to-face forms, F2F forms.
See, I would assume with all this data and heat mapping, everything would be entirely digital. Why the heavy reliance on structured F2F meetings? Isn't that just adding administrative burden?
That's the crucial balance. The data defines the problem. The F2F conversation defines the solution. These forms aren't casual chats. They are structured hierarchically, serving as practical guidelines for managers.
So they're structured conversations.
They integrate the hard data from the heat map and the spider diagram into a human conversation about risk, about course correction, about development. They ensure the manager isn't just reading metrics, they're coaching to those metrics.
That fundamentally shifts the managerial focus then.
Absolutely. The manager's role moves from being the subjective evaluator of competence to being a process steward. Their job is to manage the system, ensuring employees are focused strictly on position-relevant tasks so the business results can follow naturally.
They become the shepherd of the performance chain.
That's a great way to put it. They are proactive coaches who are always looking at the data to predict and solve problems before they cascade. They provide timely feedback designed specifically to address the gaps, the disconnects identified by the 360 feedback.
Instead of waiting for the annual review to discuss a problem that happened 9 months ago.
Exactly. It's proactive, not reactive.
So if we zoom out to the ultimate evaluation criterion, what is performance truly measured against in this high accountability system? Is it just hitting the KPI number from the heat map?
It actually goes deeper than the number. The core evaluation is based on whether the employee makes the decision to take the necessary actions and intervene when their unique business impact is required.
Wait, hang on. So the metric is not just capability or output, it's volition, the conscious decision to act.
It is. This focus on personal decision-making is profound.
Yeah.
It recognizes that in a complex business process, the person closest to the action, the employee in that specific position, is often the only one who can see a gap developing and choose to intervene.
That expresses both individual empowerment and their essential role within the broader community. The system is trusting them to manage their part of the financial process.
And holding them accountable for that trust. The system measures whether you exerted the personal agency required to correct the process when the data demanded it. Did you see the problem in your section of the chain, and did you choose to do what was required?
And when this evaluation is all done, the sources emphasize it culminates in a highly collaborative outcome.
It has to. It culminates in a collaborative action plan. The manager and the employee, they share equal responsibility. The manager is responsible for providing the resources and the environment. The employee is responsible for the execution.
So it's joint accountability.
Joint accountability for charting a path forward. It completely eliminates that old dynamic where the manager just dictates what needs to be fixed.
To bring this all together for our listener, this transition really represents a seismic shift in how we view work. Our source material gives a pretty powerful analogy for this.
It does, yeah. Think about the old way. Grading a student based on their general intelligence. That's the old competency model, vague, general, hard to coach.
Right.
This new methodology is like grading them based on how effectively they use specific data pathways, the business portfolio and the performance chain, to complete a required, quantifiable business task.
It shifts the focus entirely.
Completely. From the subjective who you are to the objective and measurable what you did, and maybe most importantly, why you decided to do it within that financial structure.
That makes the link between daily activity and the company's financial outcome crystal clear. It just removes all the bureaucratic fog.
The synthesis is powerful. The system creates a clear, measurable link between an employee's daily actions and the company's financial success. The ultimate shift is away from generalized competencies, which are subjective, towards specific, quantifiable business contributions, and critically, those behavioral decisions.
The decision to intervene and act.
The decision to act, that's it. So if you're a manager or an employee logging into this integrated system, your job is no longer just a list of tasks. It is literally a portfolio of business contributions tied directly to market profit.
And your success is defined by your intentional decision to impact that process chain when needed.
Supported by coaching based on precise data, rather than being defined by a manager's subjective feeling during an annual review.
That is a truly profound redefinition of employment.
It is. And, here is a final provocative thought for you to mull over. If the 360 feedback system is successfully defining that painful disconnect between collective expectations and an individual's self-perception, how might the crystal clear financial alignment provided by those new business portfolios further change the individual employee's fundamental sense of ownership over the company's financial results?
That high degree of clarity should, in theory, mandate a new level of buy-in.
It should. It's something worth mulling over.
An excellent question about the psychological shift these tools necessitate. Thank you for walking us through these fascinating mechanics of modern performance management today.
My pleasure.
And thank you, the listener, for sharing the material that made this deep dive possible. We'll catch you next time.